right.
Yeah.
Next up.
So which one is just before?
We're just talking about men.
Men's is this, yeah.
Men's means something else to us.
I know, sorry.
Okay.
I said it twice now. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we've all had very intense or large experiences that really impacted our life that were like either men doing things to us or taking things or X, Y, and Z that really influenced the rest of our lives after that. So I think that's another thing we've all experienced. Did you want to? Yeah. I feel like.
You feel like I'm. Okay.
No, I just feel like like both of us. No, I feel like. I think that's me. I feel like
your grandmother.
I think all like me and you both with Dad, like we've had shared experiences with my dad. We've had separate experiences with him that really kind of shaped where we went from there. I think maybe changed directions from those experiences.
But I think that watching my parents and their relationship as I was growing up, I always felt like my dad was such a distant man. He did not express any emotions. I don't recall him ever saying he loved me as a kid. It wasn't until like years later, like now, like he's very free with emotion and stuff, but I never saw him ever tell you that he loved you or kiss you. And I always felt like for me, I was blatantly aware of that as a kid. You know, like I felt like my mom needed more love than that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, now learning about him and how he felt the man's role was supposed to be in the house as just the financial provider, that he didn't have to provide anything but money and discipline.
Yeah.
Because that's how it was modeled to him, and he left home at such a young age. But I identified those missing things as things I needed 100% before I even went into the dating arena.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are things I would not be able to function without.
Right.
Right.
And I think that was important. Like, I feel like you've always really wanted that, like, after Dad left, like, with people that you dated, I think you really wanted that for people with me, and you've even said that you're so happy that Joe is like that with me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that, I know that means a lot to you, that he's very open, like, saying, like, calling and saying stuff, and yeah. But
I think with your grandpa too, I think it was a lot of his problems came from when he was raised. Like he left, like your mom said, left home at a very early age, like at 14, and was working on a farm and sending all of his wages home to his parents.
Right.
So that his younger brothers and sisters would be looked after.
right.
You know, and I think that's where everything had a monetary value to him. Like your mom said one time, she said, I'd really like to cook a dinner for Auntie Lee and Uncle Walter. And your grandpa said to her, the minute you do that, I'll give you $100.
I was 10.
She was 10.
You're 10.
I was 10.
And she
I was
cooked the
already
whole
stubborn.
dinner.
I booked it the next day, the dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had also then, because it was never it didn't come from an encouraging place.
No.
It was like, you can't do this, so you
Yeah.
won't get this.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And
It was a
with
challenge.
him,
Yeah.
and with him too, it was I don't know quite how to say it, but he always expected more from the boys than he did from Deanna, because she was a girl,
Right.
you know.
yeah, like I was supposed to learn how to iron and stuff like that. Whereas that was never an expectation
Yeah.
of board and stuff.
And I would get the comment, you need to go and show your daughter how to make her bed.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, I said, since when is she just my daughter?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like in other words, you go and show her how to make
Yeah.
her bed.
But
Yeah.
there was always that distance.
Yes.
Right? And responsibilities in the house and everything were identified as a blue or a pink, right? Like
Right. It was very gender rolled.
very
Yeah.
gender rolled. And so
Yeah.
all of those things with Grandpa and seeing all that showed me exactly what I did not want. So when I looked for relationships, I paid attention to other things and then let sometimes more important things go to the wayside because I was seeking things specifically that I was missing.
Right.
So, but now I feel like, well, you know, now I feel like I feel like I didn't have to explain my life to Joe. We led a parallel life up until
Yeah.
the point that we met in
Yeah.
regards to our children, our exes, our
Yeah.
work. Like
Yeah.
we didn't have to explain anything to each other at all.
No.
We led the same life up to that point.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
I feel like your dad and his influence on your life has had an impact around your relationships as well, the same that mine did with mine.
Yeah, but what you were saying earlier too about like when you weren't seeing your dad like kiss and be affectionate and loving towards grandma, well, that was always like a thing for me too, because I just remember being so like mad whenever people you were in a relationship weren't treating you the best, because it would just like piss me off so much. Like I remember that really like angered me because I just never understood why that wasn't the natural, do you know what I mean? Like why it wasn't happening. Like it made me angry right away, just in like a protective in a protective way. But and then it was kind of the same with dad, like because dad, you know, when I would go to his house on the weekends, would make like passive aggressive comments, and it was just always that kind of stuff. I just never. So my like view, I think, of men has always been very like skirting responsibility and like very little emotional openness, and that kind of running theme, like with dad, you know, like saying 1 minute, oh I love you so much, and then turning around and saying like really hurtful shit, was always really confusing to me.
Yes.
Because I feel like my overarching like opinion of men in general is that they're just like so scared to love in general, if that makes sense.
Because the society thinks, I feel sometimes that expressions of love from men, whether it be to their wife, to their children, to
Right.
their partner, to
Right.
their parents, that still seem so much as a sign of weakness
Because it's feminine.
because it's feminine.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like crying.
Yeah, oh 100%. Yeah.
Like, don't
yeah.
cry, be a man, don't
Be a man,
cry.
yeah.
I hated that because I had grown up in such a cold, I know that dad did cry when his father passed away or when his mom passed away, but I did never see him express any emotion other than anger or humor sometimes in his own little odd little way.
An odd way, yeah.
Yeah.
In his odd way.
Yeah.
But I always felt, seeing you in that relationship, that I understood that you guys were in love when you got married and all of that, but I still always think that I wished you would have had a partner that just loved all the bits of you that we see.
Yeah. Well,
Don't start.
I was waiting to see who was
Yeah.
going to start.
Yeah, I always, after your dad and I broke up,
Yeah.
I always wanted somebody to accept me for who I was
Yeah.
and not for what they could change me to what they wanted,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think expectations on either side, because everybody has expectations going in, but I think mine have always been a little more reasonable than some people's. And I think my relationships with men, because I was too accepting of stuff sometimes,
Yeah. Letting stuff slide.
letting
maybe?
stuff slide
Yeah.
that I shouldn't have let slide.
Yeah, no, same.
Things that I just felt were just not okay for me. if they wanted that in another relationship, that was fine. But for me, like infidelity, I don't agree with it. For me, just for me, because I have to feel important to the person I'm with.
Yes.
And if they're sharing themselves with someone else, I don't feel that I'm valued, because that's just me.
Yeah.
Other people in open relationships, I don't understand it, because they obviously have a different connection. Not that it's more valuable or less valuable than what I want for myself, but it's just not something I can handle. I couldn't handle it. Not because I'm super jealous, because I would feel wounded. Do you know what
No,
I mean?
100%, yeah.
But like even like strippers and porn and all of that stuff, because in a past relationship, someone had said to me, I have to go to strippers because I have to see a good looking face and a pretty body together. So that forever is ingrained in my head that that's the reason. Oh, I had to go because you weren't good enough.
Right.
Because you weren't attractive enough. So that, do you know what I mean? So all those bits have tainted my view of relationship. So I went in full stop with Joe. I said, this is what I accept, this is what I don't. That's
right.
And he's respectful of that.
And those are the kinds of comments that I just don't understand in general from men too, that someone can feel like that's an okay thing to say. And not a hurtful, like there's no, I feel like the lack of consideration for comments like that are so frequent from men.
Tell you what your grandpa said to me one time. He said, it was after Deanna was born, and he said to me, you know, if you lose weight, he said, I'll take you to Hawaii.
And I just don't understand that. Like
But that's him still, grandpa, with his value system.
Right.
Right, and his bartering. He just had no idea how to have a relationship. It couldn't have been, let's get healthy, let's do this together.
Together,
You know,
right.
no, it's you do this and I'll reward you with money.
With money.
with money. Yeah. And then, like when you were saying about the infidelity stuff, like that was why, and I don't know if you know this, but me and were in an open relationship to a degree of, sure, go and do that thing. I don't want you to do it twice with the same person. I don't want you to go on a date with them. No sleeping there. But even those things, and that wasn't me wanting that, but that was him saying, well, I need a physical thing more often than I'm getting it. And that's me saying, fine, I don't want to do it, I understand that, and then bending to someone else's thing when I didn't really want it. But then even those things, like saying, you know, certain periods of time I would say, okay, this month, no, I'm just like not feeling the most confident, I can't do it that month. And then having them still go out and do it. You know, there was a rule of no apps, and then finding out after, well, you know, multiple times during, and then afterwards as well, that he was still on them the entire time. So it's just like that, I feel like, is my main thing with men, is like me being very clear and then not having it, that openness and honesty necessarily reciprocated. And again, that's my decision, but now I know moving forward, I'm just like, I can't do that again. I just can't, because it's just not for me.
And that's not to feel that you're the important person in your partner's life.
And I never felt like I wasn't, but it was just, I just need someone more on my level, I think that's what it is, because different things, like I think people in open relationships probably do feel like, that are successful, feel that they are the most important person in that person's life because they're the priority, but I didn't feel like the priority.
But I think you were trying to communicate your level of comfort in it, and so having that communication only being one-sided, and so I won't do that, but I'm actually going to do that, is the...
And then not only am I going to do it, then when you find out about it and get mad and hurt, I'm going to try and rationalize it. And I was always very like quick to shut it down. I was like, no, this is what we agreed on. You didn't do it. But then going back to it, you know, breaking up how many times and then coming back and saying, oh no, never mind, it's fine. And making excuses for that kind of behavior. And I just can't do that going forward with men anymore. Like there's no excuses for anything. Once it's clearly communicated, if you break that trust, it's broken. I don't want to
And
try
that's
and
the
fix it
thing,
again.
because once it's broken, it never totally
No,
heals back
never.
to where it was.
Never.
I don't think for me, because I guess maybe I hold on to things differently. You know,
I don't think you hold on to things differently. I think you just understand the reality of the intention of going into something knowing it's going to hurt someone.
but I have friends that I know that there's been infidelity in their relationships, and they've moved forward, and 10, 15 years later, they're still together.
Right.
But always that seed of doubt in the back of my mind, I think would.
Yeah.
Yeah, the doubt.
I
Yeah,
would've
the
been
doubt
the
was
same.
always
And I
there.
don't have
Same.
any, in the relationship I'm in right now, I don't have a question to
No.
Joe's fidelity.
No.
At all. No.
No.
And I don't know why, but that's also the classic comment from the silly wife that doesn't know that someone's cheating on them.
No.
For sure
Yeah.
that he's faithful.
Yeah.
No. But that's just not in Joe's character. Like
No, I
I
don't
would
think so
never. I
either.
would never, because Joe's just so upfront. Like with
Yeah.
what he wants and what he doesn't want. Like there's just
Yeah.
none of that with him.
Yes,
So.
there's over communication.
I love it sometimes.
Just a smidge.
But no, yeah. I just think that that's kind of been the recurring thing for us, especially like men saying things that are just like, why the fuck would you say that to
Yeah.
us? Like,
Yeah, but I can even remember my father. He didn't, like my mom and him didn't have that relation. I never ever remember in the 60 odd years that they were married, him ever going up to her and, like Deanna said, give her a hug and say, I love
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
you know? It was always what she could do for him,
Yeah.
you know?
and I think that reason is why I've more so have like you two as like the closest people for me in the family, and then in my life moving forward, like generally it's women that I've been the closest with. Only recently in the last few years has it been men that I've like become closer friends with.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was always like how I was always close with girls going through high school. All my friends were girls.
Yeah.
I just never could latch on to that, like it's like constant peacocking with men.
Yeah.
Well, I did this and you can't do that kind of thing. And yeah, so it's like an exhibition of masculinity, I think, a lot of the time.
But I saw that with your friends when you were growing up, your group of friends when you were friends with Steven and Stefan
Oh,
and
100%,
Matt.
yeah.
Because you guys, well, not you, but they would all sit around in a circle and
Yeah.
kind of talk about how good looking they were,
Yeah.
how big their muscles are,
Yeah.
and God, I'm so hot. And I remember thinking, that is just not the conversation I would have had at a sleepover when I was 11. It would be, I'm fat, I'm this, I'm that.
Right, it's the more
Right, it was the
vulnerable
negative
things,
stuff, and
yeah.
these guys are all talking about how great they are. and
Right,
that's
because
just not.
no, it's just not.
Yeah, those are the days that my whole house smelled like Axe body spray.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nachos.
And nachos, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.